good? Friday afternoon. We're back.
Hey.
And it was me again last time. Had to drop out last second, real fast.
I love it. Most of the time it's me.
Yeah. I started making up for it. Yeah, and hopefully it's not much more of a trend. Hi, by the way, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. That comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. By the way, for everybody in Europe, guess what? Your time changes this weekend. Guess where it doesn't change this weekend? The States, but only for 1 week. Just 1 week. Meetings next week, they're going to be all over the place.
That's why we have Google Calendar, right? It tells us whenever the meeting is.
You just need to know that it's coming just because you might have thought that, oh, now it's an hour earlier. That's going to be the problem. But anyway, lots of news over the past couple of weeks. I will go ahead and put it out here right now. Next week, we are off next Friday. It was a plan. This is planned, not unplanned. This is planned. I guess our SLA has been pretty bad recently. But if it's planned... We have
SLA?
Huh? We have an SLA?
We have it. Huh?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Not for this. We have an SLA for the podcast, just not for this. Let's just go and get into it for this week because there's a lot to catch up over for the past couple of weeks. 2 weeks podcast, Navigating the Challenges of Legacy Software in Modern Enterprises. Gee, go figure. That was an AI that wrote that with a tweak afterwards. We had Neil on from, he's an author and also does consulting. I'm glad I'm not doing that part of consulting anymore. Listen to it. It was a good episode. It was good.
Consulting, I always thought that consulting is one of the toughest things you can do, but also one of the most rewarding things. You learn probably more in consulting than anything else.
And this week's was the hidden cost of free services. We're talking about a press release that Cloudflare put out about where they were making certain things free. But in the end, nothing is ever really free. What?
You look at you with new designs for the thumbnails. Okay.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Anytime we have video, I try to do something with the thumbnails.
Nice.
Hey, it's Canva. I go to Canva. It's like, we've done that one before. Let's do a different one this time.
Of course it is. Cover is awesome.
It's worth it for me. I think what I'm actually going to do, now that you say it, once I start editing one to where we've got video, I'm going to go ahead and pull thumbnails fast and then hand it over to my wife. Because this is the one part I really despise out of everything else is like the images they're not the last thing that I do because I need them earlier in the workflow. It's like, I'm going to give them to my wife and just let her do them.
Yeah, but tell her to do it in Canva.
Oh, she does everything in Canva.
Okay, then it's just...
That's the reason why we have Canva.
Text.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll say just come up with a different theme because there's so many different themes that we can use for thumbnails. Yeah. So, okay. So those were the podcast. Again, Wednesdays, 6 a.m. Eastern. Let's see here. Oh, we have comments here. Ingen, good to see you.
Hey.
Currently in Seattle. Now, wait a minute. So are you going to go home before you come back for, I guess it's 4 weeks. So
it's still like 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, no reason not
still
to.
Time.
Karen, good to see you.
Hey, Karen.
Totally forgot about the time change. Yes, it's now. So again, Europe is next week. Most of Europe is next week. U.S. happens the Sunday after Halloween because, hey, Big Candy wants to make sure everybody can still get candy while the light's out. The neighborhood I'm in, there's some people that do Halloween big time. I can't wait to see what Christmas looks like. If they're doing this much for Halloween, Christmas is going to be big. Congratulations to Port. Next time we see you, you can buy dinner. Or lunch is okay. And Taco Bell is fine.
No.
Or subs.
No.
A little bit more. 35 million in fund day. 35 million in funding. This is great.
Yeah. That's more than Taco Bell or what yeah.
Chipotle then.
They're buying me real dinner, yeah.
Okay. All right, anyway, congratulations to everybody at Port. Tips for first time, just to stay in the vein of things, first time visitor tips. There is a regional train system. Okay, great. The weather, it could be 70 or 80 degrees or it could be snowing.
So not good.
exactly. But as of right now, here, let's go check and see what the weather is in Salt Lake City. We'll do this. Weather in SLC. It is currently 45. It's currently 7. I'll make it friendly for everybody there. And then for the next 10 days, let's take a look at the next 10 days. That actually does not look completely horrible. I can't remember how to switch it over to... well, yeah, it does.
You know that my definition is horrible of horrible weather is I cannot wear
Whatever
short
it is.
sleeves.
Right. Okay, so here, let's
You
put
don't
it
need to
where you can
translate
read
it to Celsius. You
There
need
you
to
go.
tell me kind of short
There it
sleeves
is.
or no.
There's
Okay.
Celsius.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
I'm spoiled.
Right. But as of right now, there's only one chance of snow showers on the 1st, which isn't bad. I mean, it's not going to be that cold. But then it comes back up. So that's not, I mean, chilly for you, but it's not snow, because then you'll be leaving that Saturday, I think, the 9th, probably. Right?
No, it's later. I don't remember
No.
anymore.
No. It's the week of the 12th. So you're probably
No,
leaving
I'm
on the 9th.
arriving. Yeah, I'm arriving to Salt Lake City on Saturday. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you flying out on that Friday? If so, we need to cancel.
Flying on Saturday.
Saturday. Okay, so it's all Saturday. Okay.
You know, Europe to US, you arrive the same day.
Same day.
US to
Yeah.
Europe, you arrive the next day.
Next day. Yep. Anyway, adventures in town. So weather looks reasonable. Cold for you, but reasonable. In other words, not 6 inches of snow or 6 feet of snow. There will be games for hockey and basketball. We've already talked about all the other things you can do. But anyway, tour of Olympic
Nice.
Park. I still think you need to go do the tour of Olympic Park. I think that would be cool. That's me, though.
Yep.
Okay. KubeCon quickly arriving 12th through the 15th. If you haven't registered, register now.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
DORA report. The 10th DORA report came out.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at this yet?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. So,
You know,
let's
the
see.
problem with all those reports is that after a while, they become very much the same.
They normalize. They normalize. So anyway, there's the points here. AI. Okay, go figure.
Oh, of course.
Let's see how they're using AI. Code writing. Summarizing information. That's the one I'm liking the best. Code explanation. Code optimization. Documentation. Where does it get negative there? Something I can't see. Language integrations. Okay. Anyway, 25% increase in AI adoption because it's easier now than it was a year ago.
Yeah. And, you know, kind of saying that, like, if I would be in that, if I was interviewed, I would be one of those that would be contributing to increase of AI adoption. Now ask me, am I really using AI for anything important, or does it really matter much? It doesn't. Not yet.
Not yet. Let's see what else is here. Platform engineering, a paradigm shift. Okay,
Yep.
Let's see what they say here. 4 key findings in platform engineering. Increased developer productivity. Well, that would make sense because if something is doing something for me, that's going to be...
I mean, if that's not the case, then we can just pack all the items and go. Do something else. Grow flowers.
Prevalence in larger firms. Well, those are the people that need it. That's not real surprising.
Of course, you're not going to make... Platforms are a big investment. You're not going to make it for 20 people.
Right. Potential performance dip. Okay, a temporary decrease in performance before improvements manifest. That's the trough of disillusionment, right? You've been doing something for years one way, and now you're going to do it a different way.
Exactly.
Need for users.
Any change reflects on performance.
Need for user-centeredness and developer independence. Well, isn't that the whole purpose of a developer platform to begin with?
Yep.
So we could have written this without needing to have findings?
I could have done it for a fraction of that cost.
Yeah,
To write that report. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Third point is data driven, but the other three aren't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's data driven, but it's also
Common sense.
something that is recurring always, kind of.
Yeah.
You make a change, like so. You're switching from on-prem to cloud. You're going to have a dip in performance. I guarantee that 100%. And then some companies don't understand and say, "Oh, this is horrible. Let's go back to where we were." Some companies do understand that every change results in a lower performance or worse outcomes initially because it's investment that takes time to return.
Speaking of performance, I think I figured out why I was having lots of issues. Reasonable internet here. Not great, but reasonable internet. When it's stable, it's stable. What's not stable is when my automatic backups kick off on the machines and then suck out all the bandwidth uploading. So now I put throttles on those things so I don't lose all my internet.
You can probably schedule it, right?
Not really.
No?
You can schedule it, but the schedule isn't what I would want. Like what I would like to have, I'm gonna put in a RFE to my vendor. Backblades, by the way, I don't make anything from them. I would like to have in the backup tooling a way to schedule. Okay, during this time of day, like 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., trickle. Like keep it going continuously, but go down to a trickle. And then from 6 p.m. until 8 a.m., use whatever is there. I don't care what happens. I mean, if my streaming on the TV hiccups, I don't care because the backup matters more at that point. But no, you can go continuous, or you can set a specific time of day for it to start, or only when you click on backup now. And I want continuous, but I don't want it to continuously be sucking up all of the bandwidth.
You know how you can, this would be amazing feature, right? You know how you can configure your Apple devices to actually go to do not disturb mode based on meetings you have in your agenda. Something like that, kind of. I'm working, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be reason. So anyway, I'm going to put in an RFE for that. Anyway, let's get back to this. Because you said performance is like, oh yeah, that's why I've been losing. By the way, I figured this out last week, and since I've switched it over to trickle during the day, because I've got one machine that's the most important that I try to keep backed up all the time, I haven't had any upload issues. Developer experience, the cornerstone of success. I don't have to read that. If my experience is good, then the developer is probably going to be better. If the developer experience isn't very good, meaning you're making me, I don't know. This is
change the word developer in that headline to customer.
Customer, yeah,
exactly, and
same
it's
thing.
Universally applicable to everything. Customer experience, the cornerstone of success. Yes, doesn't matter what you're doing.
This goes back to what you were saying before. After the report has been done a number of times, you just sort of start being the same thing over and over again, and broader. You just think this is...
Which is normal because, I mean, it's the same thing with, not every once in a while. I often review and play and with different products and show what I think. And I almost never go to the same project less than 2 or 3 years later. Simply because less than 2 or 3 years is not sufficient time for that something to change sufficiently, right? And it's the same thing with what people are doing. Kind of how much did people change their habits in a year on a global scale since the last report? Well, not much. That's how it is.
So anyway, links for everything will be down in the episode description right after we finish up today. I meant to do that before and I forgot. The joys of missing a week and then forgetting what to do. Yes, I should have a checklist for this. It's up here. Anyway, that DORA reports out. One more thing from Google this week was measuring developer experience with the HEART framework, a guide for platform engineers.
Okay.
This is a breakdown from PlatformCon, improving your developer's platform experience by applying Google frameworks and methods. They talk about the HEART framework. HEART framework, here it is. Happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, task success. Do users actually enjoy using your product? In this case, your platform. I mean, I'm looking at these questions. I won't read them all. Like some of these are, can developers complete specific tasks? If they can't, your platform isn't ready. Are developers loyal to the platform?
Say, are they using it?
Well, that's the next one above
easier.
it, right? Are developers loyal to the platform, using it and then become loyal? Well, when you have no choice because your application has been onboarded to the platform, it doesn't matter if you're loyal or not. There is one and only one way to use it.
Yeah, I mean, in case that platforms are forced on people, then basically all that criteria is always met.
Right. When there's no choice.
Except they're even going to say that they're happy with it because they don't want to go against company decision publicly.
Right. Anyway. Okay. I'm being really snarky right now for a number of reasons. But it's a good article. I would recommend reading it because it goes into the thinking behind things. So, and it's got a nice acronym. And, you know, honestly, the heart logo looks pretty darn good. Moving on, there's yet a new LLM, this time from JetBrains. Now, this one's interesting to me. It's built into all of their IDEs, which I'm not using any of the IDEs right now. And you just start using it. Now, why I would use this, I don't know. But it's small and it's self-contained. You're not going out to run it, which is, again, the privacy part of it is the big deal to me.
You know, that's I was saying the same thing for a while now, that the future of AI is being a feature in products we use rather than products themselves. So yeah, if JetBrains, what makes JetBrains new LLM special? Well, it's part of JetBrains. It's whatever is what's the name of their ID? It's the JetBrains.
The big one is whatever I just remember it as Ultimate.
Anyways,
which has everything. Yeah.
IDs, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course. I mean, if I would be using JetBrains, I would be using that LLM simply because I want it to be there. That's what I want.
It's because it's there. There's no
Exactly.
friction. So, if something is there, even if it's not great, there's no friction to use it.
Yeah. Now, you know, if it's not great, that might be one of the one of the reasons on a pile of reasons that I might eventually switch from one project to another or one product to another. But it's a feature.
Let's look at it. Nikos put in there it's intelligent. I can't remember what it is. It's very annoying to me when I can't remember a product that I used to pay for.
IntelliJ.
It's IntelliJ. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. IntelliJ Ultimate or whatever it was. Anyway, stop. Okay, so anyway, yet another one in the mix. We now have another product that finally graduated.
Yeah.
KubeEdge. Had you ever heard of this? Because I'd never heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Anyway, it's from Huawei in 2018, so 6-ish years. Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a very, very positive changes happening in China, right? More and more open source projects come from there, which is a very positive thing. I remember, like years ago, I could name on one hand how many projects that originated from China are in CNCF. Now there is actually a considerable number. So,
well, looking at this, what's interesting is 15 orgs, 1,600 from 35, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, contributing orgs included Huawei, Dow, Harmony, China. You look at this, other than ARM, I believe everybody is China-based.
Yes. I mean,
I can't remember Sony,
because
but, yeah.
ARM is Edge, right?
Yeah.
It cannot not be there. But yes, there is still that separation that, there is a friction between contributions from China and not China. There are politics involved, but overall, positive thing.
Have you ever done anything on KubeEdge? Have you done a video or anything else?
I did.
Okay. It's been a while. Probably, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, graduation. Finally. So now the quilt has one more graduated section.
Nice.
Okay. Finch is now available on Linux for container development. Finch is AWS's answer to Docker, if you will. It's built on top of NerdCuddle, Containerd, and BuildKit. So it's been there for Mac. Mac was where it first landed, and now it's available for Linux, which sort of makes sense.
Okay, so it's a Docker desktop replacement. Is that the case? Is that the description?
Desktop without desktop.
Okay.
Without the desktop, yeah. So it uses Lima under the hood. So macOS and Windows uses Lima, but then on Linux, it doesn't have to use Lima at all. It's just using all the other tooling. So there it is. So Finch wraps NerdCuddle, which then wraps BuildKit, Containerd, and whatever. Time to get your own little Linux machine at home, right? No.
Yeah.
You install it. It has the services. Off you go. Anyway. Container development.
Nice.
GitHub shortcut commands. Are you ready? You ready?
Hey, if you want to speed up your code, that's GH. But okay.
But that's not what they're doing. Okay. We'll talk about GH in a minute because I have problems. Use dot to open the repo in VS Code web. If you didn't know that. I didn't know about I for comments. I knew about dot for repo. I knew about T to open the file finder. I didn't know Y to do a permalink. That's pretty cool. Question mark to learn all the shortcuts. I should have figured that one out. NMP to navigate and some other shortcuts.
Nice.
Yeah, if you're just sitting in GitHub, there's things you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, Ingen, I'm going to go back with you on that. I disagree. I don't think it's ever too late for anything.
So I do think it's a little bit too late for things. It's never too late to make something better, to improve on something that already exists, right? I personally, to be honest, I was years ago. I was all around. Hey, let's do Rancher Desktop instead of Docker. It's now it's kind of they're all doing the same thing. Okay, kind of. I think it is a bit too late, unless you're bringing something substantially different, right? And judging by the components involved in it, no, it's the same thing.
Well, that's the key part. It's the same thing, but now Amazon has control, or AWS has control over those things, just like it has control over its JDK that it's running in Corretto, just like it has control over OpenSearch, just like it has control over. So this is a pattern for AWS. I don't think it's broad market, but for AWS to be able to control it and roll it out as something they can trust, for lack of a better term, that's where the biggest value is to AWS, not to anybody else.
So, I'm now judging it from the diagram. I haven't tried it. I don't see it. Now, what I can easily imagine is that in next iterations of that, we will see some tighter integrations with AWS services. And then it becomes a thing, right? Kind of, you can run Docker Compose up and it runs locally. And then you execute this command and it becomes Lambda. And now, then we're talking, right? Then that's something not necessarily better, but that's something different. And that's something also where I can imagine AWS having real interest, besides being a hobby of somebody.
Right. Yeah, I went back to that. So they don't have that yet today. I was just checking to make sure they actually didn't add that in. But this is a foundational thing for them at this point, I think. Now they've got something to build on top of. Just like
Yeah.
Docker Compose used to have the ECS integration, right? And they
Yeah,
pulled it. And it was some
actually-
Azure one too.
I'm not following Docker anymore that closely, but that's very similar to one of the first thing that new Docker, let's put it that way, right? After it reoriented itself to be a developer experience, one of the first thing they did was extensions, right? And now when you go to and use Docker, you can scan images with Snyk initially, and now with Docker something, right? So it's a way how to, you first convince people that that's one of the base tools or important tools that you use on a daily basis, and then you start extending it towards whatever you're really offering, right?
Speaking of Docker, Docker launched a Terraform provider. Did you hear about this?
I don't even understand. What is a Docker Terraform Pro? What is it?
So,
Okay. Terraform to work with Docker Hub. Is that what I saw
Yep.
above?
so here's the example.
Okay.
So, customization. So it's Docker Hub, Docker Hub org. Yeah, to work with Docker Hub.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, without entering into debate whether you should be doing those things in Terraform or any infrastructure as code tool, there are quite a few people who actually deploy stuff to Kubernetes with Terraform, and they build images probably with Terraform, and then it makes sense to push images to Docker Hub, right? If that's the registry you're using.
Right. So what this
Kind of-
does is
it's another type of task that you can execute within your workflow, whatever you're doing with Terraform. Nice.
Right. Yep. So you can manage your Docker repositories, teams, users, orgs. I guess it's sort of like I've seen Terraform providers for GitHub, right? So this, to me, it's in that same family.
Exactly.
It's okay. Well, it's there. Nirmata announced nctl.
Okay.
And I don't know how to pronounce it. It's the Universal Infrastructure as Code Scanner. So you can scan Kubernetes manifests, Terraform and OpenTofu plans, Docker files, CDK, Ansible playbooks. Single tool does all the things. It's
Makes
there.
sense.
Sure, why not? The Nirmata Policy Manager. Okay. Nobody should ever use npm for anything. npm is Node Package Manager. Don't.
True. But yeah, Nirmata is doing what most startups are doing. First, if you're lucky and successful, which most are not, you have a project that goes viral and becomes widely adopted and stuff like that. At one moment, you need to start thinking, okay, how to expand from that, right? And going into scanning of sorts is a natural extension to somebody who is working with policies, right? It's a very similar domain, yet somehow different. Makes sense.
Yep. So looking at this, so it integrates in with that, but looks like this command line tool can do remediation capabilities. Okay. Using the remediate command, it provides recommended fixes for any violations. So you can scan, remediate, do it all.
Yeah, that's one of the things from today's show that I put on my list to go through.
Okay.
Based on announcement, it sounds like, okay, you're doing what everybody else is doing already for decades, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that actually there is some kind of connection between Kyverno policies and that. If there is, then that could sound very interesting.
Well, that's what it says right here for teams using Kyverno. Well, so teams using Kyverno, the Nirmata Policy Manager. So we're here, and then in the nctl, all integrated into nctl to give you complete control over overall Kubernetes and cloud security posture.
Mm-hmm.
So nctl directly to Kyverno, no. nctl via npm to Kyverno, yes. Or whichever direction the arrow needs to go.
Yeah.
Like this right here. From the CLI, you can interact directly with npm. onboarding new clusters, managing policy, and enforcing policies at scale. Well, good. At least you're not flying out tomorrow to Salt Lake. GitHub Cybernetes.
Oh, nice.
Cybernetes. So what it is, where is it? Right here. Cybernetes turns this, and of course you can write this from the back of your, just sit it down and write it, right? That's no problem. And it turns it into this. So it basically turns it into a reasonable query language.
Yes, and looks very, very interesting, to be honest. I mean, I've seen it before. I haven't dug deep into it yet, but I know what it does, and it sounds very interesting. It solves a real problem, and that problem is, okay, I'm running cluster or clusters. How the heck do I find stuff, right? Here's an example, Darin, right? You know that you created a deployment, right? How do you find replica set that it was spun up from that deployment, and then find pods that are spun up from that replica set, and then connect that finding somehow to find the service that is communicating with those pods, and that pod probably has a couple of secrets and or config maps attached, right? Finding all that is hard. I mean, when I say hard, it's not hard like you need 5 days, right? But it's not trivial to do, especially not in a single command, right? Yeah, if you execute 57 kubectl commands, you will find it, but it's going to be 57 commands. Now, my only beef, I love the project, to be honest, the idea behind the project. My only beef with the project is that example at the top that you showed, simply nobody, I hope that nobody ever wrote something like that, because that's not how you really do stuff.
It's like all the
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Let's face it, no person ever had it as a single command. And if there is such a person, my apologies, but there is something wrong with you. Nobody wrote that command.
But for me, what I like is, I mean, really where I first got my start back in the early 90s was working with Sybase and Microsoft SQL Server. So this feels very SQL-ish. It's not perfect, but I can make it make sense. Like you were explaining out that whole thing. And I fell asleep while you were explaining the track from replica set down to service to wherever.
So that's Neo4j syntax. And it makes perfect sense because Neo4j is a way how to store data that is interconnected with each other, right? This is my amateur intent to describe it. And Kubernetes is all about that. It's about a bunch of resources that are somehow connected with each other and we don't know how. And this language gives you... So it's a good choice for a language, except, and this is important, very small percentage of us know it. So it's a better choice than SQL, but if you add the familiarity with SQL to the mix, then I have mixed feelings, right? I might prefer to be less effective in how I query my resources with something everybody knows than be more effective with something that not many know.
Right.
It's a good project, though. So,
Cybernetes. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, you got started with Backstage. We won't have to go into this because is it making any kind of changes? Like, is it evolving any, or is it still the same Backstage from a year ago? Going back to our earlier conversation.
It's evolving and it's trying to evolve, but it's not becoming evolved. I think it's for that type of architecture, right? Like Backstage. It's very, very, very hard to undo the architectural decisions that you made. Very, very hard, right? Because, so let's say that you could have two models. One would be that there is Backstage and that's it, right? And everything that the backstage is in backstage. That would be easier. That would be bad for many, many different reasons, but easier to evolve, right? Backstage is a plugin based mechanism. And that's amazing because that's what allows it to grow very, very fast, right? That's what enables lowers the learning curve and the requirements needed for somebody to contribute to it, right? But that also makes it very, very hard to evolve because how do you change how the engine works while still keeping into the account all the contributions done outside of that engine? And that's the same thing. You could say the same thing for Terraform, for Ansible, or Crossplane even, right? Kind of all the tools that have contributions and expansion designed in a way that they extend the core product are hard to modify.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to get ready for something else while you were busy. Day 2, you're talking about crossplane this week?
Yeah, it was crossplane. Yes. Mm-hmm. There is a new function that normally I wouldn't spend time do a video on yet another function for crossplane, but I think that this one is very, very important. And huge thanks to the contributor.
Then your 5 minute or less, which actually were 10 minutes. How many Argo CD? This feels like the old candy commercial. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Yeah. Hey, but your comment on 10 minutes, I improved in the one published yesterday. Yeah. It's less than 3 minutes.
There you go. That's much better.
There we go.
And then this week,
it's very hard to explain things in only a few minutes.
It is. If I had more time, I would have made it shorter. That's the answer, right? If I had, anyway.
Exactly.
So there's those two. Now we talked about the new GitHub issue items that they have that are in beta now. Mm-hmm. And what I was doing is I was trying to log in to take a look at it. I want to show you what I found working in with these tools. I want to see if I'm actually a person. Sorry, I'm not sharing this yet. I will share it in just a moment. Yes, I can do that. Do you mind if I want to show you how these new things work because it's actually pretty interesting. So I'm going to stop this screen. I'm going to share my full screen. So the rest of this time, we're going to sort of play around with, make sure this is the right screen. There it is. Okay, good. And we'll add it. Okay. So I'm on the DevOps Paradox org. Which repo do you feel okay with me playing with? I don't want to.
If it's mine, you can pick any because whatever I created there is temporary. I tend to delete them. If it's not deleted, that's only because I forgot.
Okay. I'll use Roadie Demo because it's been a while.
There we go.
Okay, just because. So we've got issues here. And some of the new features, you can do sub-issues. This is how I feel about sub-issues. So I'll say a new issue. This is issue 1. Or I'm just going to call it XYZ. Or ZYX just because I'm feeling very backwards today. So there's create. So there's the issue. Now I can create a sub-issue. Not a big deal. So I'm going to call this sub 1. I'll put in something here. Sub 1 and create. So there's a sub-issue for this. Now how is this any different than doing a task? Well, it's different because it's an issue. Because you can take tasks, which are the checkboxes inside of an issue, and turn them into issues. But now I could build all this out. Well, like we talked about before, to me, this is more of a project epic level, and these would be the issues that I really do stuff with, right? Mm-hmm. Thinking Jira for a moment. So this isn't a big deal. And if you want to do sub-issues, that's great. I just feel like it's going to be conflating things, especially since we already have projects. So I should use a project to put issues in But do I want to put issues in the project and then create sub-issues against the issue that's acting like an epic that really, or is the project really the You get my drift. Take a pick and stick with it. The problem with this, just like the upside of Jira, is it tells you what these things are. Right? You know at each level what it is. You know that it's an epic. You know that it's a whatever. It's too fuzzy.
Let me correct you. You're right about Jira out of the box.
Right.
The problem with Jira is that significant number of Jira implementations I've seen is where companies given infinite amount of options go infinitely crazy.
Right. Speaking of going infinitely crazy, I can create a sub issue.
Oh, come on.
I can. And then it starts stacking there. Actually, those are the sub issues, but this issue is supposed to be its parent. If we take a look on the right-hand side, it went up there. So you can actually create a sub issue of, I can reparent this. My parent changes. Let me change the parent here. So I'm going to change the parent to sub1. Okay. So now, wait a second. Oh, okay. Because I'm in the edit. Oh, this is the other thing too. This UI gets, so now because I'm in a sub issue, it's actually a drawer that slides out. So I can have a sub1 and sub. You can go 8 levels deep. Do not go 8 levels deep. My opinion. If you can make it make sense, go for it. But that's sub issues in a nutshell. I think there might be a place there for it, but I don't know. Now the new thing. Now sub issues you can't do. Okay, going back to GH, you talked about almost at the top of the show. I've been doing a lot with GH. I'm loving me some GH. But these new features that are beta aren't in GH, which makes sense, but makes me also unhappy because I'm using some of these features. This next feature is one of the primary ones. Issue types. Issue types, new section right here. Types are below labels. A type, you just pick what it is. Bug, feature, task. So task. Great. I like it. But why can't I just have a task label?
So the thing that bothers me is I don't like having, one of the reasons I like Go is that there is only one way to write something. There is only one way to write conditionals, right? Instead of 57 different ways like in Perl. And I like that because I might say this is not I don't like writing in this way. I'm going to choose a different language. Cool. But when I chose the language, I chose it also because I like the syntax, right? And I like that it doesn't have infinite amount of variations. The same thing is with this, right? Can somebody explain to me what's the difference between labels and types? And if there is no real difference, why do we have both? Just to confuse everybody. Okay, here's an example of, it's not the same, but very similar. Have you ever been there on a host of a webinar, and then it turns up, I think like in Zoom, for example, people they can ask questions in Q&A, and then they can ask questions in chat.
Exactly. Like which one wins?
I always have the same comment. If possible, disable one of those two. I don't care which one. I just want questions in my webinar to come to one place. Same thing here. Sorry, I'm
no, that's fine.
Here.
No, it's fine to rant. I'm trying to. It gives you the ability to classify and manage different types of issues across I think maybe it's this last phrase, across your organization. So those all tie up to the org level.
So the way I interpret it is that they're saying that you should have organization level labels.
That's what it means to me. Yeah.
I'm not against it. I'm just not to see the difference.
Yeah, and they have a long. If you're into this at all, you need to read this issue that I linked to, issue types public preview. It's pretty funny, and it goes into all the things here. So increase project item limits, which I didn't realize was there, and then the search stuff. But I'm using the type to do some things. So it's mainly for task. Because what I found going back to, so I can't actually use it with GH yet. So the new type field not available in GH in any way, shape, or form. So I'm using labels, but I use just from a visual perspective, the task stands out from the label. But I created a label called task, all lowercase. Let's say I'll call it. Oh, you can't do it. I'll edit it then. So I'll edit. Can you do? Where's task? There's the one I did. Can I change it to upper T? I haven't tried that before. Yeah, I can. And I can change it to the color that. Save changes. So now if I come back over to the issue, well, I didn't pick the right color, but it's like,
yeah, but exactly.
There has to be a reason. And I don't know what the reason is yet. But anyway, I'm using it because it's there. But it will probably become more clear over time.
I mean, it's similar and this is more fuzzy, not so clear this is the same, but similar like relationships, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
So subtask is related to the main task, but then you have relationships so that you can essentially do conceptually the same thing.
Right.
This task is related to that task.
I mean,
in my head, subtasks are simply tasks related to subtask.
Right. But at what point it's like, again, what Luther's saying, it's like, what's wrong with 8 levels? I know you're joking and I'm joking too, but it's like, I can sort of see one level of sub issues, but it's like, what are you trying to model? What is it that you're trying to do? And if I was doing this in an organization, I would want all the tickets to be done in the exact same way. At least from a development organization may be different than SRE. But then if you're the CTO, you're trying to get an idea of, okay, how quickly are we getting through tasks?
I do think that there is, for quite a few organizations, the need to have subtasks and subtasks and whichever number of levels, right? I'm just not sure that every tool should end up being this fits everybody's needs tool, right? That's my beef. I'm kind of, there is nothing wrong with, in my head, I like GitHub issues because they're simple and limiting at the same time, but that's what I like. Somebody else likes something complex like Jira, go use Jira. Kind of like, I don't think that the tool should be made to fulfill everybody's needs. That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. And that was a good comment was it Engin, right? Yeah. You want to be Jira? Cool. Then you're going to alienate, then you're going to potentially lose people who are using it because they don't want Jira.
So let's see this. So if I take my bottommost issue and I remove the sub issue, what happens? Okay, I removed it. It's here, sub. Oh, so it's completely lost from the tree.
Yeah, again, it's relationships, man.
Yeah, because to me, if like what I just did, what I would have expected is when I unsubbed that one, I would have expected it to still have tied up to my parent.
Okay, I thought that you
maybe
expected
not
it to be
I don't know.
deleted.
Well, not deleted, but now I've got an orphaned issue out here that I have no way to see where it came from. Like I don't see is there a way to see history on an issue? I don't remember.
No, that
I don't think so. Yeah. So now I have no idea of where the parent came from. As long as I could see the history of the issue, the history of the flow of the issue, I guess that's what I'm looking for. Then that would be okay. But it's like now I have.
Now you're looking for a Jira.
Now I'm looking for Jira. Right. It's. I think it'll be.
There's nothing wrong with it. Kind of like people do need it.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't understand why those people don't use something else.
Going back to Nikos, maybe this is a part of Azure DevOps. That could be interesting. Maybe they're getting influenced by that side of the house. I could buy that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm happy so far that GitHub tends to be working as a separate company from Azure. Not that there is anything wrong with Azure, just to be clear, but kind of this is a company within a company. We have our own thing, and we are advancing on our own thing. I'm not sure that I would be happy to see forced integration into Microsoft. Again, not because Microsoft is wrong, just kind of like I still see GitHub as a separate company.
Yeah, I do too. Luther, I think well, that's our job to overthink things, but it's more confusing than useful, just like Jira can be. If you keep it simple, I think it's good. So the project one, here's what was the private beta increased project item limit. So it used to only be 1,200 items in a project. Now you can have 50,000. Talk about overthinking it.
Look, if you have 50,000 items in a project, there's something wrong with you.
If you have more
The
than
problem
50,000,
is not GitHub.
is
The problem is not GitHub.
Well, if you've got more than 50,000 items in your project, is GitHub issues the place that you need to be tracking that level, that size of project?
Yeah.
Because it's valid for projects to be that large. Thinking about SpaceX, right? The launch of whatever the next one will be.
I'm pretty sure that SpaceX is still split into projects or whatever they might call it, right? It's not one big project.
No, but the project. Let's say there's a launch project for the next whatever spaceship is, right? Number 6, right? That's probably
It's
a
not going to
project.
be
To
one
them.
project. It's not going to be
It's
one.
going to be multiple projects, but there will be an umbrella project, I bet.
Yeah, sure. Umbrella project, that's a different thing. You can have project of projects. And then you can have 8 levels of projects. How about that? Huh?
I know. So anyway, sub issues, advanced search, which we didn't look at. They made a big deal about it, though. I want to go back to it real quick. So this advanced search is you can use and or and parentheses and nested searches and oh dear, more complex filters. But I guess that's okay.
I mean, yeah.
It's great. It's basically wrapping GraphQL. Is what I'm.
Yeah,
thinking
and
it is.
it's logically it makes sense that they say basically we want to be basically. I think that GitHub basically was to be what GitLab is, right? Kind of. We're not a source code repository. That's just where you start with us. We are everything.
I'll pass on commenting on that. Anyway, so even with all of our negative comments on this, at least it's been updated, right? Yeah. Issues have been sort of just there all along, and these are nice next steps, I think, for them to put in place, to where they can compete ? With the more flexible tools. Because there was no flexibility before, or there was minimal flexibility in comparison to the other tools. That's what I'm saying. It's But anyway, but going back to our what was it? The Mellum. Going back to this concept, if it's there, I'm going to use it. Now the flexibility, people may have just dumped on GitHub issues because there wasn't enough flexibility before. Now there's more flexibility. Now you might not need.
So the way it works is that one of the first, so new companies at least, right? I'm skipping existing companies. One of the first decisions they're going to make is Git repository. It's one of the first decisions you're going to make. Where are we going to keep our code? Before almost anything else you can decide is where is our code, right? And that's going to be GitHub or GitLab, right? Those are the two choices. Now, if it's GitHub, from there on, if that's the decision you make, then you start asking questions. Where are going to be my issues, right? And that's where GitHub has leverage, right? It's where people begin, and then they can actually basically eat the competition in that way, right? Kind of, if you need Jira, and Jira is already available inside of the first decision that you made, you're probably going to go for what's available, right? This is the direct threat to Jira in a way, right? Because you choose code repo before you choose ticket management system.
Unless you're a company run by project managers, and then you choose your ticketing system before you choose any kind of coding.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Software companies now.
Software companies. Okay. Anyway, that was a quick gander at some of the features in issues. It's fine. It's beta. They're making changes. Again, go take a look at that thread that's linked there if you're interested in it. There's a lot of very interesting comments. Let's just put it that way. Most people are polite. So anyway, next week, Monday, you have a video. Tuesday, are you with Whitney? You choose.
Tuesday, Whitney, yeah, you choose.
Wednesday podcast.
Wednesday,
Thursday.
nothing. Wednesday podcast, exactly. Thursday,
Your 5-minute or less question. Yep. And then not Friday.
I'll try to keep it within 3 minutes. That's my goal. I cannot promise that.
Okay. Well, that's fine. But Friday off. We're off next Friday. Now remember,
all except the last answer. I mean, I did 4 or 5 so far. They all started with 3 minutes, and then kind of like, I cannot do it. Oh, I just answered it, but I make certain assumptions. Oh, I need to explain that I made certain assumptions. Oh, it's tough, man.
It is hard. It's hard to make something short. And we are off next Friday. So everybody, and it's mainly because, well, I don't know the mainly because, but one of the reasons I'm going to blame it on is I'll probably have a sugar hangover after Halloween. So I'll be chocolate wasted is the way I'm thinking about it. So
sounds like a good reason.
Okay. That's the reason I'm going to use, whether it's true or not. So thanks for being with us this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Then we'll be off again another Friday because Victor will be over in Salt Lake City.
I'll be freezing, yes.
You'll be freezing. Maybe that bicycle ride that you were into with Ingen may not be the best choice.
No, I already gave up on it. Ingen, sorry. I realized that actually I did not know that Salt Lake City is in mountains. It's freaking cold. I cannot do it.
Yeah, you'll figure out a way. Ingen, make him do it. So anyway, thanks. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.